Welcome to the Plaid Studio. Today we're going to do another Let's Paint FolkArt One Stroke hometown lesson. Hi, I'm Donna Dewberry. I'm the original creator of the FolkArt One Stroke painting technique. Today we're going to do something we've been doing all year long. Every month we've been coming on and painting together another picture for this beautiful wall gallery that's right behind me. I love filling our walls at home with beautiful paintings that mean something to us. And so if you think about your hometown, there are beautiful country churches sometimes down the street. You might have a barn on a farm down the street, and other houses that you like the stone that's in the walls of those houses. So I want you to think about that as we're painting. And today we're doing this fun house where I'm teaching you ombre in the background, which is a new technique that we haven't done so far this year. And we also have some great poppies in the front with a little sidewalk with little potted flowers going down that sidewalk. Doesn't that sound fun? Plaid has also made a wonderful kit for us this year that's going to make it easy for you to paint all the lessons all year long. In this kit, we have the 12 reusable teaching guides to help you stroke right at home while I'm teaching you the lesson. We have our FolkArt One Stroke brushes, and my favorite, the FolkArt multi-surface paint. Luscious, creamy paint that has a sealer in it, and it has bright, vivid colors that will make our project so pretty this year. We have something new. We have templates and patterns that I haven't had before, 9 pages of those, two-sided even. And we have lower and uppercase stencils this year that will help you personalize your projects. So to go find out more about this wonderful hometown kit, go to plaidonline.com/Let's Paint and look for the hometown kit. Well, I am so thrilled to start painting with you today. So let's go to the studio and we're gonna paint this beautiful house with these poppies. I'll meet you there. All right, let's get started with our Love Begins at Home August Hometown Project. And what I want to encourage you to do first thing is to get your reusable teaching guide from your kit, your hometown kit. And then we're going to pull our colors that we're going to use. And we're using FolkArt multi-surface colors. And I'm telling you, my favorite is the FolkArt multi-surface because it covers all kinds of different surfaces. Glass, metal, ceramic, wood, canvas, and the beauty of it is it has a sealer inside. Yummy, rich colors. It's thick and creamy for painting the one-stroke technique. So I'm excited to share those colors with you during this project. You're going to love them. So I'm listing the colors right here for you, and also the floating medium that we're going to use, and the brush sizes that are also in your kit for you to use. And this reusable teaching guide is going to be painted on, wiped off, and painted again. So this is going to help you learn each stroke that we're going to do during our project. And I want you to keep it right in front of you because it's going to remind you what's coming next. It's numbered so you can know which strokes to do next or which steps to do next. And then here's our house that we're going to work on. All right. So one of the fun things that we're going to do in this project is we're going to take a 10 by 20 wrapped canvas, and it's already white and ready to go. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to do an ombre. So I don't know if you're familiar with ombre, but it's usually a lighter color going to a darker color, shades of different colors that you might like. And it can all just be teal all the way down to a light teal. Or what we're going to do today is we're going to have the dark Prussian blue at the top, and we're going to blend some wicker white with that. And then we're going to change to teal and slowly change our color as we come down. So I'm excited to get started with that. And that's going to be your prep work for this beautiful project we're going to be doing. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to turn my canvas a little bit so I can get to the top and so you can see well what we're going to do. We're going to start with Prussian blue and our double loader, and we have some wicker white, and I have it in different compartments here so that we can come over and get little bits of white as we go, and maybe even blend it in the middle of the compartment. So Prussian blue, teal, and citrus green. And in the middle of the double loader, we're going to put our floating medium. And I just want to share with you, the floating medium is what I use instead of water when I'm doing the one-stroke technique. And the floating medium is the fluff. It's a clear gel, and it's the fluff that is in the pigmented paint with no pigment in it. All right, so that's going to make it easy for you to move when it feels dry. I'm going to take my 3/4 inch one-stroke brush. I'm going to dampen that brush, especially if it's a new brush. You want to make sure you get the sizing out of it. We're going to lay it on the paper towel and get the excess water off. And then we're going to pick up our Prussian blue on both sides of the 3/4 inch brush. All right, so I'm going to start up here at the top, and I want it to be this rich, look how beautiful this is. It's a rich, rich dark blue, but what I love about this color is that it's such a pure pigmented color. What happens is that you can go all the way from very dark to a beautiful light blue and all the shades in between. So when you do one-stroke painting, we blend shade and highlight with each stroke, and it's how we add extra colors to the brush. Okay, you see how pretty that is? And I can get lighter and lighter if I want, but I just want that nice movement. And I also like you to go around the edge as you do this, the edge of the canvas, so that while you have that exact color, you're going to get this nice blend on the sides. And same thing at the top. You're going to, here we're going to start with the first color that we used, which is the strong Prussian blue without the white. Okay, just smooth, and there we go. All right, now I'm going to come down just a little bit more, so I have to get some more white right in here. And so the color I want to move to next is an aqua, which is not aqua, it's actually teal. The color I want to use next is a teal color, and it's going to blend nice into this shade. Take this around, and then we're ready. All right, so sometimes I leave the paint on the brush, and this time I think I'm going to wash it out. So I don't want it to, it's already going to blend into the blue, but I don't want it to distort the color too much. So here is the teal, side to side. Now see, if it feels like, you notice I haven't used medium yet, the floating medium, because I'm putting so much paint in here that it's moving nicely for me. When it doesn't move nice is when you need to add a little bit of floating medium. See that nice blend? Okay, and then we work down. Now we are going to put clouds up here, so this, the little bit of streaking in this will look good with the sky, because the sky gives you those looks sometimes. Now, a traditional ombre would just fade from one color and get darker and darker or lighter and lighter, okay? This one, I kind of have a blend of blue that gets lighter, teal that gets lighter. And that's good because we're just doing sky. All right, let's come in here. Now I want to be about halfway, so I've got quite a bit to move. So I'm going to go ahead and get some floating medium, a little bit of the teal again, and move. Okay, I'm pushing a little hard so the blue is coming out that's inside the brush. A little bit of it stayed in there. There we go. All right, so before I add other colors, let's go right here. See, we have that nice blend along the edges. I'm going to fix that blue there. Okay, I'm going to come up here and just blend this in a little bit more so we don't look like we have stripes a little bit. Okay, so I need a little bit more teal up here so we gradually get lighter instead of bands of color. Really light like a feather. You're barely touching this. When I teach kids, teenagers, what they love, they tell me they love, is getting, when you see a sunset with all the beautiful colors, they love that. And the first thing they say is, that looks like when the sun goes down. I love that look. Sometimes you wonder if they even see that look. They're so busy in their lives. All right, so now I'm gradually going to go white with the teal so it gets a really soft color. And then behind the house and behind the green trees that we're going to put on here, we want some greens in here. So I'm going to use the citrus green mostly. All right, see how I'm working this in here? All right, so let's pick up, I'm going to get medium and citrus green, floating medium and citrus green to start working in here. And actually, I'm going to get this a little bit soft here. And then I'm going to get darker as I go down. So it's dark, lighter, light, lighter, and then dark again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take some citrus green and wicker white in here. And I need it to move. And I really need the floating medium because it's not moving as much as I want. But you saw I had a lot of paint on here. Okay, side to side. And then on each edge, we're going to come here. You can stroke it down like this as long as you come back and blend it in the right direction. Okay, so let's get some heavier green. This is citrus green. And I'm going to just put a teeny bit of sap green, because in the foreground here, we want a little bit of that. Okay. And even though the house is going to be there, it's so much easier, instead of drawing the house that we're going to do, is to go ahead and do your whole background, let it dry, and then we're going to come back and trace on the house. All right, so I'm going to get all these colors along with sap green. Okay, let's get a little bit more floating medium with sap green. And see, I can just get a little deeper shade than the citrus green by putting a little bit of that sap green in with the floating medium. All right, so it's okay to have a little bit of movement in this. We're going to have lots of greenery down here when we're finishing our project. All right, don't you love those colors? I think those colors look really pretty just like they are. I've had people say they want to just hang their shaded ombre canvas and maybe even put a few, like 3 canvases just like this next to each other with different colors. It's kind of fun. All right, so we do the bottom and the sides. All right, now what we want to do is get this to the shades you want. I want you to see over here that we're going to put a lot on here. Not exactly the color, but if you like your color, that's what's important. All right, and we need to pause for a minute and take your blow dryer and dry it, or let it dry and then come back and paint with me. Okay, now that we're back and we're all dry, I want to pull out our pattern out of our hometown kit, and we have the house right here. It tells you where the house shape is. And I'm going to show you that we've taken some tracing paper and we traced out the shape of the house. And this is a good time to extend it a little taller if we want to, which I did, is come down just like a 1/2 inch more. And then this is the black is where the actual house shape is. And then the red is all the added roof and chimney. And so what I want you to see, these windows and doors, make this look just like you want to. I'm just sharing with you, I did a long window so that I could put the flower box underneath and shutters, and then 2 windows down here. You can move the door to the side, have a big plate glass window in front of your house. It's up to you. All right, so, and then I put a little round oval window up there, not a round, but an oval window up there. And so the first thing I'm going to do before I get started, sometimes I don't evenly put these on here, but on this, I did an even layout from the house edge, not the chimney, but the house edge, okay? And you decide how much room I want here. So I wanted to have like 3 3/4 from the bottom here so that I have plenty of room to do the added landscape I want in the front of the house. And I went 3 fingers here. This is 4 here, so I'm going to move it over a little bit. And I want to make sure that I've got it right on both sides so that where the house isn't crooked. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and tape with painter's tape a little piece to hold me steady so then I can trace from underneath. Okay. So let's go ahead and do it up here, even though that's pretty high. All right. And then this way I can keep lifting this, see if it's right. I'm going to take my graphite paper and this, the shiny side. You can see this is well used and you can still use it. We're going to put that down, and you're not going to worry about this moving because it's taped. I used to always hold things, which made mine wiggle around and I have problems. All right, so the important thing right now is I just want the shape in here so that we know where we're going to base coat the white. So I'm going to come in here with my stylus, and I have used ballpoint pens before, but the thing I wanted to tell you about that is then I mess up my pattern because I have ink all over it. So if you want to save this pattern, which I do like to save my patterns, I fold them all up and put them in a container or folder. Then you can always go back to it and use it for other projects, all right, without doing this added work. Now we're coming across here. Now that's where all the white is going to go. Now I always advise you to kind of look and see, hey, is that turning out well on there? And we're going to come across the bottom. So remember, that's all the white. Then I want to do a gray mix. And so I need to put, I actually should have gone on up here when I did this long line. Made it easier. Okay. And then when I made this down here, you should have just kept going. I was busy talking to you, not paying attention. So now let's do the roof line. Okay, because that's going to also be the medium gray along with the chimney. All right. I love the colors on this house. I think you're going to really enjoy hanging this piece because it's got so many pretty flowers and cinnamon on the top. There we go. So I'm going to check it out, and I missed the top of my chimney. So let's go here and add. Make sure you pull it down so it's straight again. I like the see-through ruler because you can get a really good lineup and see what you're lining up with. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I'm not going to base coat the house first, but I am going to do a few of the elements of the greenery. You see all this greenery on the side, but I can go into the house and not worry about it. But it's easier to do this now than trying to miss the house after we base coat it, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to make some clouds with my 12 flat. See all the pretty clouds up here? Now, what do? We go right back to our worksheet. Okay, so now we're going to take and see the clouds. Here's a little scruffy pounce here. So we're going to use our 1/2 inch scruffy, really fluff it before we start. And I'm going to show you a real quick way to get that look. And so this is nice having the reusable teaching guide because you can see up close that look it's supposed to be that I'm going to show you here on the video. All right, so it's dry. We're not wetting it. We're going to go here. We're going to pick up the white and see how I make a little circle of that. Okay, you can even pounce it to see if you're getting that same look there. All right, so keep this up by you so that you can see, like, I want to get that look, right? So we're going to start here, and I like to do this little circle effect, and I want strong looking white at the top edges. And then I just make little circles with the scruffy. Usually when I'm doing greenery, I'm pouncing. Okay, but in here, by moving it around just a little bit, you're getting nice faded looks in here. Okay, but then I can get some stronger, a little bit white, and do another strong row of clouds in front of that. Can you see that? All right, and come out to the side. I don't like it when it's just a ball here, a little ball there, and a little ball there of clouds. I think it looks better to move it around. I'm going to come here and get a teeny bit of floating medium so that as we're putting it on there, let's see if that makes a difference on how it moves for us. Ooh. Now what this did was make it go solid. So I'm going to tap it off a little bit and move some of that with me. And I've got a little trick I'll show you. If I'm not happy with what it looks like, I can take paper towel and move some of it away. See that? All right, just a little trick. I do need a little bit stronger white now on that top edge. And in here, but see the little circles I'm making? Faded, faded. Okay. That's where all the words are going to be put. And then right down here, I'm going to use what's left on this brush. And I'm going to do just a little fluffy cloud area here. I'm going to push a little bit harder. So it's just a mist of clouds way in the back. Okay. Now, when you're looking at this is heavier, this is a little medium, and this is lighter. And I also want to bring to your attention that make sure there's no heavier ridges or texture in here, because that's going to distract you when you're doing your lettering. Okay, it'll make it easier for you if you don't have that there. All right, I'm going to just a teeny bit more up here. All right. So there we are. You can put some more clouds in here, but we're going to be putting our background greenery. See here, it tells you about the tree and that going in here. It tells you some background about your pouncing of your clouds, and then what we're going to come in the background of the greenery, which is actually, all this green back here is actually higher trees. All right. Okay, now what we're going to do is take our dampen 3/4 inch brush, and we're going to come in here and pick up some citrus green and some wicker white. All right, and let's get some floating medium. All right, so now I'm looking at the rooftop, and I want to come out to the side here, and we're going to make these great looking trees in here. And I don't want it to look too watery. It's kind of like a thicker gel. So I don't want it to bead up, but I do want it to kind of be see-through here. So look what happens here. I can put this in there, but then I need to come back with either some more wicker white, some more citrus, maybe a teeny bit of sap green. Citrus green and sap green is what we're using. And have some bellowing greenery in there. Okay. All right. So before I get just the sap green trees, I'm going to come over here a little bit. Citrus green, sap green. And on this one, it's going to, let's work it in a little bit. It's going to be some little trees that are going to show on this side. Now it's not bothering me to go over the house drawing, but the tracing on here, but what I want you to see is it's really easy to do it now before we paint all the other detail in there or base coat the house. Okay, so I picked up more sap green. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of floating medium more and then come in this area and look, all in here, I just need it. It's not going to show you detail much because we're going to have hanging wisteria vines over here. Okay. But on this side over here, we are going to go back to the little bit of floating medium, work in on a heavier on one edge of it, and then going lighter as we go down the brush. And we're going to do some treetops over here. Over to the side. And all of this down here does show. So let's go ahead. And we're going to pull a shade all the way down. But you see that dry shading? Floating medium is going to help that do better. And we're going to shade it later too, maybe, so that'll help. See how I can come down? See my little finger running along here? It makes it really easy to get that straight line. All right. Just lightly touch it when we're here so you can still see the texture or the bellowing parts of the greenery. So people know what we're doing, what this painting is over here. Okay. Now, what I am going to do is start base coating the house. And I want to lay out where this sidewalk's going to go. So I'm going to come from where the door is going to be. And I just kind of have this look. So it's coming towards you. So it'll be like everything here is going to be right in your face and you're going away to the house. All right. So let's pick up some licorice. All right. So we have licorice and some white to get our gray mix. All right. So we're going to mix it like a medium gray. So I'm going to pick up the good white here. And with my 12 flat, I'll pick up some of this licorice. So wicker white, 12 flat, and licorice. That's going to give us our color. All right, so we need this gray tone to be nice enough that we can see like the mortar or whatever in between the brick. So that white pops out when we do that. Also, while I've got this in my brush, I'm going to go ahead and come here and do a straight chisel line. Now the chisel is the tips of this brush. So when you're lining up to go down here, we're going to line up the chisel. And that, if we chisel both edges, then it makes it really easy to fill in. All right. And then that's going to be the roof line. Okay, so now this is way larger than just the width of the 12 flat. So I can take and lay this brush flat, which usually I tell you don't do that when you're base coating. But see, I can push it down and pull it, and it covers it really well without going out of the edges. Let's get some more gray. All right, we're going to come right up here. And there we go. All right, so now I want to do the roof line. Same thing happens with this, is I'm going to take that chisel. All right, I'm going to grab it along here with plenty of paint so I can get the nice chisel edge. And I have that going up the side of my brush. All right, then I'm going to go right along here. Now this is when you can't lay the brush down. So I'm doing it on an angle. So as I pull it on an angle along here, I can get that nice area filled in. I come along here. And hopefully I don't go into that green where it's wet. Along here. Okay, there again, we're going to put this at a slight angle, but not flat. You'll have a mess if you do this flat. So be careful that you, instead of flat like this, we're going to do it at an angle. So it's going to fill in nicely. But I just need to look and make sure that that's flat out there, which you don't see it on the other side. Okay, so what I want to share with you again, I just washed my brush, is that if you lay this flat, you can see with a clean brush, this is going to make this roof larger and larger, because then you're going to go back over it to try to clean it up again. But if instead of laying it flat, you are going at an angle with the brush and then putting pressure, then you can stay thinner on here. But over here, I was sharing with you that I could push it flat at this point and pull it down, and it was safe because I had the borders already on there. So that's just a little point to remember, because that's what happens, is that grows and grows and grows bigger than we want it to be. All right, so let's get the 3/4 inch flat, and this is a messy white, so I want some fresh white, and I'm going to, so we're gonna now get the wicker white into our 3/4 inch flat brush. And we have a border here already, but I still like to come along here and go right along this line and chisel along this line. All right, along here. And that's just going to help you keep in the boundaries. It's going to make it easier for you, I promise. I'll move that before it dries with a ridge, okay? So go back and get more wicker white. And it's a lot easier to get this nice chisel with the length of that 3/4. And then you're going to come right down here. All right. So now let's get one good coat of wicker white. I'm telling you, this FolkArt multi-surface paint will be one of your favorite paints. See, I'm already getting bigger on this. You want to try not to do that. All right. Now, one little thing I'll show you that's a nice little trick when you are painting and you go out of these lines. I'll just show you in just a minute. I'm going to come all along here. I'm not worrying about this being perfect on the bottom because we're going to put all kinds of greenery along the bottom. But I want you to smooth out the layering in here, the coat of this paint here. All right, so you can see a couple places I didn't do perfect here, so I'm going to take and clean it up with a wet paintbrush, wipe it off on my paper towel, and I can go clean it up again if I need to. The only problem with that is my gray was a little wet still. So see right there? Because I don't know about you, my hand is not always steady. All right? So there we go. We are ready now to let this dry, or you can use your blow dryer and put a second coat. So that's what I'm going to do right here. So let's pause it and we'll be right back. So we're all dry. We've got our 2 coats on here, and we're going to start putting in our house details. So if you look at this, let's go back to our teaching guide, and right on here, you're going to see that I used teal, a base coat of teal around the windows. I made a light blue mix out of the Prussian blue. And I did the door a slightly lighter teal so that the darker teal shading would show up better. Also, the little window at top. And then it tells you right here with the sidewalk, we did a gray mix, horizontal painting, and streaking with white, wicker white. So it has everything on here that you're going to need. So keep it there to remind you. And what I'm going to do again is bring what I drew from my house. And I'm going to line the roof up, make sure the chimney's straight, okay, tape it back down, and make sure it's all dry before you do this because it needs to be super dry. All right, lay our graphite paper back down, and we need our ruler. There we are. So we have our ruler and our stylus, and what we're going to do, first thing is I just drew this carefully to get that oval window at the top in the attic. All right. And then I'm going to start on the side, whichever side, and I'm going to pull all my straight lines that are vertical as I go. So then hopefully I won't miss any. I can go check also to make sure, but I just want you to see it's easier if you just start coming across. Here's my door. All right, I'm going to come the other side of the door. Then, see, I didn't do inside here. See, just that fast, and I don't remember what I did. Okay. All right, now I made this door, I made the opening a little bit larger on the right, so it looks like it's going in. So there's like a little entrance. But see, if I do all these lines as I go, I missed the one up there. Okay, then up here. Now, I didn't make this go all the way down. If you're right here, you're going to all the way down to the flower box. And right here, all the way down the flower box. All right, and then the side of the shutter. Then we're going to do this. I can't believe how much time this saves. Because I, lots of times, just freehand put all these little squares and all in here. And it looks like I freehand and put all these little squares in here. So, oops. Make sure I did that one. And right here. I'm telling on myself, aren't I? But I'm improving. So as long as you feel like you're improving with your art, by the different lessons you learn in life, some of the lessons we learn, have you realized, are from mistakes. And I remember when I painted rosebuds, one on top of another in a painting, and then I realized, oops, I can't put stems and calyx and stuff on that rosebud because there's one right under it. So there was no room. So guess what? I spread my rosebuds after that. So I didn't have the same problem. All right. So there we are. Check it out. Make sure it's where you want it to be. And there's a really quick, easy way that I did the chimney grout mortar lines. But we will get to that when we get to that. Okay. So this is what we're going to do now. We're going to start up here. I want to paint up here and then do my sidewalk because I don't want to lay my hand on top of the sidewalk while it's wet. Now I am going to take, again, my Prussian blue with some wicker white. So if this is still messy, so I'm going to come over here with some Prussian blue. And that's way more than I need. I just need it really light blue. Okay, and be sure you mix enough that you have enough to do all of your windows so you're not remixing and remixing. I have picked up my 12 flat to make this mix because that's actually the same brush. I mix a lot with a smaller brush, but this is going to be the brush size I'm going to use to do my windows. All right, so I'm going to come right in here very carefully and base coat in my little oval. It's easier to pick this up, sorry. All right, we're going to go right around here and right around there. Okay. Now, inside this window, so we're going to chisel right in here. Just remember, I hope I told you that's the chisel edge. You're going to keep doing all this line up work with lines here along the chisel. So I can lay this chisel down a little bit. See that? And I can lay it down a little bit across here. I do have to turn it. Okay. So right along there, see the chisel? All right, then, and the whole reason, remember, the whole reason for that is if you go like this, lay it down and do that line, the paint's going to squish out to the side. You like that terminology? It's going to squish out. Okay, so there we are. We just put, it's a coat there, and I don't worry about it being absolutely perfect because I like it to have a little bit of glare in the window, and we're going to also do a little floating shading on there, okay? All right, so I'm going to pull this down. Now I'm starting to feel a little pasty, so you might want a little floating medium, but I want to try to get all of these before I add more floating medium, so I have more of the same color and density in here. All right, I don't want to use floating medium even though I'm getting a little pasty because I haven't used it, so I don't want to have a different tone in here of color. All right, so this is what I did here. I just want to show you. I bulged out a little bit there, so this is when I would wash this brush or get another second brush. And see that little bulge there? Just clean it up. All right. And the teal might have covered that, but it's easier to do it as we go. All right, so now we're going to come in here and I'm going to show you how I begin. Oh, we have some gray in here. All right, let's go ahead and get some of this gray with the gray mixed with the 12. And I'm going to go right along here inside the door. And here. And then this door is the one that I did a little bit of a mix of teal and a teeny bit of white to tone it down just a little bit. All right, this is the trim around the door, but this door is set in this entrance here. Okay, and we're going to slide that 12 at an angle around there. Okay, so I guess my finger just hit that. Okay, guys, now let's show you that shading of the door. I'm going to pick a teeny bit of white up, the wicker white, a little bit of wicker white and teal, mix it in there. Not much difference, just a little bit difference than straight teal. All right, so we're going to base coat the door. I still do my lines with a chisel. And then fill it in. Okay. Fill it in over here. And then let's do one of the windows. All right, now these are straight too. All right. Let's go ahead and do the shutter up here around this window to show you. All right, and then we're going to come back later and do those little shutters along there. This is the flower box. All right, so we're going to go right along here. Pull this in, make sure this brush is at an angle instead of straight flat. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to come here and fill in this shutter. chisel, chisel. So you're going to do that on each window. You're going to put a little bit more teal, make it a little darker. And I am going to go ahead and make that door a little bit darker. Now you're going to continue to go around these windows just like we did around that window and with our teal. And I'm going to go down here now and show you how I would do the sidewalk. All right, so I need a little bit darker gray than what we did on the chimney and the roof line. So I'm going to pick up, because I need to shade the sidewalk with some white. So we're just going to get a little bit darker with our 12 flat. A little bit darker gray mix, more like a medium gray. All right, so I'm going to come, even my chalk wasn't quite there, but I'm going to come right from here. And we're going to go, remember on the teaching guide it says side to side. I want to go side to side from the front door to where we were looking at this home from the street. All right, so side to side, because you do see those stroke shading that goes side to side. All right, and then I'm just going to come in here and pick up little bits of white and get you some shading along the way. See how I'm picking up wicker white? Coming across here. Wicker white. A little bit more. Touch and pull. And I can pull from both sides even. And it just gives movement in that sidewalk. Do you see that? Okay. So you guys take a few minutes to finish base coating in your windows and your sidewalk, and we'll be right back. Now that we've base coated, we've got it all ready. And also I want you to know I used a 2-script liner instead of a flat brush to go around the edge with the teal of this window. The next step is I'm going to paint the siding in the upper part of this house on the face of the house, and then do the shading line right here so you can see some depth. And we are going to go back to our teaching guide, our reusable teaching guide, to see how we line this up with the colors that we did. So that's going to just be an added help for you to see. So I'm going to put this to the side. I'm actually going to turn this sideways so I can pull towards myself for these, for the siding. All right, so I still have plenty of gray mix there. So I'm going to pick up the floating medium with the 12 flat. All right, I'm going to come right in here, actually, and get some of the gray mix that we did. All right, so I'm going to come right along underneath here. Okay, that's a little strong. Let me go back with some medium. Floating. So if you take that floating medium and we come right along here. I had a lot of paint to work with there, so I needed to thin that out a little bit. Over here. So just go over it a few times, and that makes the floating medium work in a little bit, and it also gives you a nicer clean line. Okay, now I'm going to go up here and start. I'm going to shade under here with floating medium when everything's dry, but the first thing you do is come along here and do some siding layers here. And I'm just going for the effect. They don't have to be exact, but you can make it thin or you can make them a little bit wider. Oops, see, I touched that here. Whatever style or look that you want, okay? All right. Side to side. And if it makes you happier, feel like you're more comfortable, you can pencil each one of these on before you do this. I get a little bit more gray. And I'm going to do at an angle when I come here so that I don't touch the bottom there. There we go. All right, now also what I want to do is come over to the chimney. I'm going to put the white mortar lines on those brick up there. They're gray brick, but I'm going to put those with the chisel edge of this 12 flat. So I'm going to come along here and shade that a little bit darker with the floating medium and the medium gray before I start those lines. Okay, now a lot of the vines are going to go up over this, so I just want to start it really well and have some of those lines in between. So I would not, some people would like to use a 2-script liner at this point, but I really would rather use the number 12 flat with wicker white. Okay, and then this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do one line here. I did larger mortar line, larger brick. And then when I came to here, you're going to break up those lines. And see how we're just going to get the effect that we need. And so you're going to go back to that same line, every other one, okay? So I'm going to come, oh, that's over a little bit too much. A little bit there, a little bit here. All right, you see we're getting that effect. And it just peeps out here and there. So I just go ahead and finish the whole thing, the whole chimney, with those little lines of mortar. I know I have some stencils sometimes for small brick, but look how simple this is. It's almost easier than doing stenciling. I get a little sloppy there. Can take a little bit of that off. Okay. All right. So I did have some white here. You can just add a little bit more white if you want. Well, I've got that white on there. Okay, so we started getting some of that trim. Now I want to go back, wash this brush, and before I start shading the windows, I am going to add a little bit more of that floating medium and medium gray around some of the window. So I came on this side of the shutter, a little bit under here maybe. Ooh. You can see I had too much medium. All right, a little bit under here. So we're going to have floating medium there and there. That's just where the depth would be, okay? All right, so the next thing I want to do, I did put some darker. Let's get a little bit of licorice with the gray. And I'm going to put a little bit down here. Can you see that right along there to separate that? And I did come in here a little bit and make it look like it's a stoop in front of the door. All right, see just a little bit there. All right, and I came right in this edge here. And see how straight you can get this little line right there. So it looks like it goes in. Okay. Now, what we're going to do at this point is we are going to wash the brush, and I'm going to put some blue shading in the window before I do my little styles in there. So I'm doing Prussian blue, and I'm picking up the medium on the 12 flat first. I'm going to dip a little bit of Prussian blue, and I'm going to go over into the palette and work that in just a little bit. And I'm going to come across this whole area like it's shaded across here. That's still a little heavy, so I'm going to get more medium. The beautiful thing about the floating medium is that you can keep picking it up and thinning your paint and you have control because of the floating medium. All right. And then I did a little bit on the left side over here. And then down in here, I did the top. So I should go down this side too. The top and down the left side. You can do it inside each pane, but it's easier to do it like I'm doing it, where we do it before we put the window panes. Okay? So we start getting some depth. Do you feel that? You're getting a little bit of that dimension. All right, and then I'm going to come right in here and pick up some darker teal, and I'm going to add a teeny bit of that blue to the teal because my door is a little bit darker, and there was a little window right in here. A little bit more blue with the teal. Let me pull this towards me. There we go. All right. Got a little bit bigger on that, but remember what I said, it's really easy. I got bigger than I wanted, so you just come in here and take some off with a clean, wet brush. I love tips and tricks on how to fix things. All right, so now we need the little white trim work that's going to go on everything, so let's do that. We're going to use wicker white, and we're going to flatten that out so we have a nice chisel. All right. And a couple things are going to happen. You're going to come straight down here and across here, back and forth. Okay. Then I'm going to pick up some white and do little marks where the shutters are. So little, just look at your teaching guide. It's going to help you see how we're going to do each one of these steps. This is also, you can put these lines. There's even chalk pencils that you can get that might help you if you want to do some smaller detail. All right, now I can come back and shade those or just leave them like they are because you're getting the effect. I'm also going to get fresh paint each time and make a nice chisel each time because what I want to do is I want to come across here with the window pane. Now this one's not going to show because we're going to put flowers in the flower box. But I still put it there because a little bit might peep through. Okay, wicker white again. We're going to come right along here. So look, I just want you to see this really good. I'm standing up on the chisel. Now I'm taking the chisel and I'm leaning towards where I'm heading. So I'm still on the chisel, but I'm leaning to the right because I'm headed to the right. Okay? And then to divide this window up, and you can see I'm not exact, but we're going for the effect and all the flowers go in there too. I'm going to find, where's the center? The center is right there, and then I'm going to break that up by breaking those centers up, the center of that space. All right, so right here's the middle. Okay, get a little big on that. Come right here. And then come right here. Yeah, it's kind of how I do fence too, where I do the center and the sides. All right, this one doesn't show very well, so I'm going to come in there a little bit darker. And I can get a little bit more up here. Okay, now on these two bottom windows, I'm just going to get the center and then halfway. All right, and I'm going to have to wipe off some of that because it went on the wood trim. So I could do this first and then do the wood trim, but I have my little wet brush trick that I can take it right off. Okay. There we go. I got a little bit of white out here on the edge. Okay. Now, so isn't that fun? I love it when it starts looking like something. All right, so now what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to put all the little greenery inside the window box. So it's the same type of greenery that I'm going to do along the chimney coming up. And I'm going to put that before I put the hedge. All right. And I did this tree kind of like you don't see it back here. So I might do the tree a little bit more detailed so it shows a little bit more, but you can do it either way. But then I want you to come over here because there are flower containers going down the sidewalk. I just thought that gave it interest. It was pretty blank without those there. All right, so this is we put the dark in first because the dark, you need the dark to see the light. So I just did the corner of the brush all the way up with the sap green. Then I came with citrus green. And the same thing happened here with all these little white blossoms here. I just did the sap. Same thing happened down with all the pots where I put the sap. And then I added red to it. So what we're going to do, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and put these little white pots along here. All right. So I did them right across from each other. So in proportion, I didn't want them too big. So I just did small, and then they got a little bit larger. Why? Because they're coming towards you, right? And then a little bit larger. So small, a little low there, but that's okay. And larger. All right, so I am going to touch that with a teeny bit of gray on here. Oops, too much gray. I'm going to have to come back and put some white back over that. I got carried away. There we go. I want that white to show. Okay. Now, this will have time to dry while we're doing everything else. So let's start with the sap green. All right, in this window box. So I'm going to dip the corner. Here we go. Sap green with the corner. All right. So if you can see right here, I show you up close and personal exactly what I did in here first. You can look at what I'm doing on the video, but also have this in front of you because I'm just rocking the brush like this, so I'm sweeping it on here, okay? And I did dab a couple. Look, I do sometimes dab it instead of sweeping, depending on, I want a little bit darker up here. Sweep, 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 sweep. More on this side. Because I don't want it, as more natural means that it would just hang different places on both sides. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit more here. Okay, a little bit in here. There we go. All right, so that's there, and it definitely needs to be dry because we don't want to start on that while it's super wet. We want to come over here to do, let me move this out of the way. We want to come over here to do all this greenery up here so we can put our wisteria hanging. And so I'm going to start down here. And I had to be real delicate. This in here, I'm just slip-slapping it along here. Not slip-slapping, I am sweeping it along here. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up the sap green and I'm sweeping it along the side here, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. So look at that corner. So you take that corner and it's like you rock it like this and sweep it on the edge. So you just want it to be growing up the chimney. And what we do want is, I had some areas where I brought it down in here, where it came into where the window is a little bit. A little bit over onto the roof line. So see, I'm deciding I'm going all the way up here some. I came up here on the side a little bit. So I know where I'm going. So if I lay out my map of where I want to go, then I don't have to think about it. Just come over here and do the little sweeping motion. Okay. All up there. Just kind of making it feel natural up there. And because we are coming back with some citrus green to lighten it. All right. So isn't that kind of pretty? All right. So go back again and look. What's going to happen now is adding the citrus green. And look, you just practice it there and wipe it off and make sure that you're getting that movement that you want. So I'm just going to wipe that off my brush and I'm going to start picking up the citrus green. And I just picked up a lot. So look, I'm going to come back and slip slap. Nope, I'm going to come back and sweep across here. And you can add a teeny bit of white if you need to, wicker white on there, but we are going to not need that, I don't think. Now, I'm not going to do every little spot because when you put the wisteria on here, the pretty purples and whites are going to go in there. And so you wouldn't see all the light. Remember, I'm not doing it on those. I wanted a real strong sap green color with the white blossoms. Okay, now we're going to let this dry before we can put flowers on. I did do some little dotting, dot, 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 coming down. Okay. So I even took a little bit of that citrus green right down into the window just a little bit. All right, so let's look at what's next because that definitely has to dry. All right, now what I'm going to do, let's start the tree. I talked to you about the tree a minute ago. So we need some burnt umber added to our palette. And you barely see this tree, so I want you to see, I show it really good on the teaching guide. We're going to pick up the wicker white, burnt umber on the 12 flat, grab a little bit of medium because we're making it really muted. And actually, a lot of this bellowing I did was part of this tree. All right, I scruffied here, but you could do either one. You can leave it just in the trees. Like I came right in here and I made branches into this area. So it's on the chisel edge, right here on the chisel edge. I made some little branches come into that tree, and then I ended up making a tree. So I'm pulling the dark brown down, the burnt umber, and pulling it down to the ground, and the white's on the one edge. Can you see that? Right here is the white. And we have little bits. So what would look nice is instead of just leaving those raw edges, I'm going to pick up the scruffy, make sure it's all dry and fluffed out, and I'm going to put a little bit of green, sap green, a little bit of citrus green, just pounce it a little bit muted on the dry scruffy brush. And then I'm just going to put a little bit in here because I don't want the tips of that stroke to look like they're not in the tree. Okay? Just little bits. So we have a little tree over here. All right. And then we're going to put some greenery across the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll put some green in our pots. So this is how I'm doing it this time. I am also getting sap green, citrus green, and now I want wicker white. and I want to pounce it so these top, if you look at these little top bellowing edges have that lighter green. All right, so I'm going to pounce there. Let's put this brush in the water. All right, so we're going to start over here. See how that really, it's like a bush there. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more of sap green. I'm going to kind of come straight across here like a hedge. A little bit of white, citrus again. See, so you want to break it up so it looks like multiple bushes or plants along here, all the way across. All right, so we come to the other side. See, the dark green needs to be really strong along there. And it's kind of like a horizon line where that's the main level, and we build up from there and down from here. See how the dark green is on the bottom? Sap green's all down here. Up here. Take it around the edge. Okay. And then we'll work on the foreground after that. So see, you're starting to get the little bellowing greenery in the background, the tree over here, and now your eyes are going to focus in front here. Okay? Just make sure that that sap greens are kind of pretty straight along there, okay? All right. So now I'm going to go back to my 12, and I'm going to put a little bits of this dark green. Sap green is our dark green right inside these pots, because that has to dry before we put the apple red in it. And I match this so it would be matching the poppies in their yard. Okay, on both sides, because this is coming towards you. It's really not right at the front door. Okay, I still have hardware to do on the door. A little bit here, and I'm just getting that really hanging over a little bit more on each side. Now, this is what happens. I want you to see, because I came down a little bit lower, then it didn't go up and touch near the pot. So I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. I still need some sap green. And everything you do to make the sidewalk go a little bit wider, to make the pots get a little bit larger as they come towards you, helps you get that depth, dimension in there. Okay, so I'm just tapping the corner. And I'm just trying to make them about the same size without carrying over into the sidewalks too much. Okay, and a little bit in here. And just a little bit of these front ones show, because all the poppies are coming in here. Good, because I smeared this pot. There we go. My finger touched that right there. All right, you don't even see this one because the poppy's on top of that one. All right, so now you see all that green in there. It's got us ready. I'm still not ready to put paint on there, so I'm going to take my 2 script liner, and I'm going to make inky the sap green with water. All right, we don't use water almost ever except in the script liner. Okay, so we're going to come right up into these windows. Let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to come here and pull these little skinny, tall little grass lines. And they're little plants, but they're so far back you couldn't use a chisel edge of a 12. You have to use a little liner to get really thin grass stems for these little flowers. And because you don't see what the flower is really well, I want you to see that I came in here and chose just little teeny white blossoms which pulled it back to the white up top here. So I'm picking up thick paint, and let me show you what I'm doing. I'm just touching the tips. Okay. There we go. So just little teeny. I came down a little bit more along here. And a little bit more in here. Okay, try to get those delicate, but see, I really think they add to it. But right here, it shows you clearly how to do these little, you put your grass down, then you dot the little guys here. There's your little pots. All right, I know you've got me, but you also have this right at home, like I'm there with you. All right. All right, so before I go any further, I want this all to be dry before I start adding the poppies. So I am going to pause and use my blow dryer to dry all that dark green up before we jump into something new. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go back now that this is all dry. I'm going to go over here and look at more of what I want to do to my windows and my doors. And so I took some licorice with a 2-script liner. I'm going to dip the handle of the brush into the licorice. And the 2-script liner is the handle I'm going to use because it's smaller. Dot and do a second little dot. Wipe that off so it doesn't get all over you. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of water to inky the licorice on the 2-script liner to get the rest of the detail. So the detail is we're going to do little hinges over here, 2 little notches there. We're going to then pull the handle down to the large to the small handle. All right, so now what I want to make happen is I did come along here with a little bit of licorice on the left side of some of these pots. And some of them, like I said, don't show it by the time we get the other flowers. And just put a little bit more of shading from that licorice. All right. Okay, now what's going to happen now is I want to take my 12 flat and float a little bit on top of the styles a little bit to shade around the window panes. I'm going to shade with floating medium and Prussian blue. Right here again, let's get it worked in so it's not harsh and just enough that it will shade in here. All right, so I can come back and touch up a little bit of that and make sure I get that color I want to show. And it makes the styles show a little bit better too. I also came over the white, so that's going to set it in a little bit. Same thing here. But when I came in here, I also came inside this part of the window and right here. Okay, a little bit more in here. Right along here so it sets back the window from the pane here. All right. Okay, let's go a little bit underneath this horizontal, under this bar, the horizontal bar. Just little bits. And all that just really adds to our complete look. Okay, so I'm going to come in here now and put my wisteria. So I'm picking up dioxazine purple, and I also want to pick up some white. So I'm doing wicker white and dioxazine purple the whole time I'm doing this. wisteria. So I'm going to start up here and just I'm going to tap more on the corner of this brush, but also sweep a little bit so that you see texture. I'm going to do a little bit more in here. And so what I realized, if I just take the dioxazine purple and I am getting some of that shading while it's wet, I can then come back with little bits of wicker white and add on top, and it'll still get some lavender, multi layers of color from the dark purple to the lavender and white shades. So see, I can just tap, 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 and make it look like it's falling. All right, I don't want to get too far because then it'll dry up a little bit more than I want it to. Okay, so let's go back and let's get some wicker white and tap a little bit more, little bit in here. See how that changes the color, gives you extra. I still have my dark dioxazine purple, and then I come in with some little bits of white. So wicker white, dioxazine purple. I'm going to turn this over and tap it back because I had too much white. All right, see how that's starting to look? Got dimension in it. It's got some pretty little hanging wisteria. Now you can see that this is too light, so I can just bring some dark in there. Bigger cluster in here. And this is probably way bigger. I made it more dramatic, but then it would actually look, I don't think your cluster would be quite so big, but I really wanted this beautiful purple tone on there because I thought it looked really good with it too. All right, so we come back here and add a little bit of white, the wicker white, little bits. Little bits over here. Okay, so now we're going to come in here and we have to add some little white flowers here and some red that's going to go in the very front in your pots, and then we'll have that all ready. So let's pick up just wicker white. And so I'm just dabbing little clusters and a little bit trailing. So let's do the trailing over here a little bit more. And I'm just tapping it because it's ever so little. We don't want it too much. So you could literally just put little dots up there. And that's like a cluster of flower. More white, more wicker white right there. And a little bit in here. See the little flower clusters? Okay. Now what we're going to do down here is we're going to start bringing the red. So we're using apple red. And I love the apple red. And you're going to see in here we're going to add some moon yellow to get some brightness. But the apple red just pops in paintings. I love it. All right. So we're going to just come in here, and I don't really know what flower I thought it would be, but I want it to look like individuals and not a cluster of the apple red. See, individual dabs. All right, and then there's more as you come in here. A little bit more. I don't know about you, this is my favorite part, when everything starts coming alive and it starts looking like I was hoping it would look. And the fun part is you're going to be able to say, I did it myself. And people are going to say, you never told me you're an artist. Or they might already know you're an artist. I always say you're one stroke away from being an artist. If you're new and you're wanting to try to paint with us. Okay, there you go. All right, so I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to go practice poppies and the poppy leaves and come back and finish our project with some words. We're back and everything's dry. I'm going to put this to the side because we're going to start working on poppies. And by the way, while I was gone, I made sure that I cleaned out my palette so I have a nice fresh palette to work with. It was getting pretty full. And what I did was get clean water so that we could clean our brushes easier. I also made a little eraser out of the paper towels because we're going to practice on our worksheet and we want to be able to wipe off the strokes as we go. All right, so I'm going to turn this sideways because I'm going to practice this leaf. And the leaves that we put actually on our poppies here, I had the yellow on the outside, but on this one I'm using the sap green on the outside instead of the moon yellow. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take this dampened brush, lay it on the paper towel, and then I'm ready to pick up the two colors that I'm going to use here, which is sap green and citrus. I'm going to pick them up a couple of times. Now you can see in here that I don't have as much sap green as I do citrus green. So I'm going to work it in there a little bit more. So this 3/4 inch brush is perfect for this size, and it makes a smooth, better looking leaf than if we used a 12 flat right now. So we're going to practice to see if that stroke's what we want it to be and if our blend's good here. And just so you see what we're going to do over here, I'm going to hold the lighter color on the outside. And by the way, let me get a little bit of wicker white. All right. Well, I'm going to get a little bit of wicker white and I'm going to work that in just so y'all see the lightness of it. Or you could even come over here and get a little bit of moon yellow. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to lay the brush, and this is what you can see where we start and where we end. So if we're here, you're going to watch the outside of this stroke and see what we're doing here. Let me show you here closer again. We're right here. Watch the outside edge. See the movements and see how I'm leaving the dark green in the middle and I'm taking and pivoting there. Now watch what happens as I stand up, then I slide to the point. All right, so that's the tip of the leaf. So you come right here. We're going to slowly move around and end right there, and then you pull the stem in the middle. All right, so to practice this a couple times would be really good for you. See, all the way around, then pull the stem in the middle. And then all we do on here, there's a couple of smaller ones we might use. We actually use a 3/4 for all of those. But I'm not pushing hard when I'm doing these poppy leaves. All right, but that's exactly like I'm not pushing a lot of pressure down. When I say this, as I'm coming here, if you push a lot of pressure, which sometimes I do to get a heart leaf, if you stay a little bit more up on the chisel on these leaves, you'll get a better look. Okay, so now that we've tried that, practiced that for a little bit, let's get our 12 flat and let's look at these poppies. All right, so this is apple red, and you can see, just make sure you see right here apple red, and on the other side occasionally I added moon yellow. So this is also a 12 flat that's been dampened. I put it on the paper towel to get the excess moisture out. And I'm getting apple red here. So let's go practice with apple red for a minute. All right. So you can stroke here to make sure you've got the color. I want you to see that you can push down, stand up, push here like 1. This is a bud. 2. You can push down and come down. And 3 to the side. Now let's take the apple red and then grab across here yellow. That's the moon yellow on the other side. So if you came here and practice with the moon yellow down, you're going to put pressure and lift, pressure and lift all the way around on each one of those. So that gives you the mix between the red and the yellow. Now I want you to see if I get red, the apple red on one side, moon yellow on the other side. Look what's going to happen if the moon yellow's up. As I push, you're going to see a little bit more yellow. 2, 3, 4, pressure, relief. 5, pressure, lift. Okay, and so that's all we're doing, and then putting a pretty center in. So what we're going to do is make sure that we wipe this off while it's nice and fresh, so it doesn't dry on top of here, so you can keep practicing. Okay, so I want to put that to the side, but I want it right here so I can remember and see. I also have these little green stems that come up for the bud, and the bud is just a 12 with a little bit of a pod. See the pod here? So we're stroking it in there with I used a 2-script liner, filling that in, and then pulling a stem to hold it. All right, so we'll paint that together and you'll see how that happens. All right. So keep that right here so we can keep track of what we did. So what I'm going to do first is I want to paint some of the big leaves on here. So let's get our 3/4 inch again. All right. And remember, we're going to pick up, look, we come here, pick up those 2 colors, sap green, citrus green, dip some white, and even some yellow. Okay, now over here, let's do one in this area. So I'm staying up on the chisel. So this is a chisel. I'm just not pushing hard. Okay, see just a little bit. And I need a little bit more white on this one up here, the leaf up here. So I came right in here. And then I can do a few little loops like that and then pull the stem. I have another one right here. And so I just wanted a base down here of leaves before I start putting some of the poppy petals there. I came right here in this background and put a bigger leaf there. We'll go up to a point. You can come back down and put another one over here. See how if you do one side and then do the other? Okay, so that just gave us the underneath base. So now when we paint on it, that'll give us some depth underneath. But now what I also want to do is, lots of times I will paint the buds and then pull the stems. All right, so on these tall little guys back here, if you look really good, they're like a dark green, almost black, because I wanted them to show. So I'm just going to go in with this clean number 12 flat, and I'm going to pull some tall stems in here to get those little delicate ones in. All right, and then I have one that turns, but I'm going to, those 2 turns, I'm going to use my 1-script liner. I got a teeny bit of water in here, roll that sap green, and this is what I'm going to do. I have a bud that's going to come this way and curve straight down, and right over here I'm going to have a bud that comes this way and pulls down. All right, we're going to go ahead and put the one over here, which is going to go right in here and then come down. and a little bit of a side view of a little poppy. And any other one you want to add, you can add stems later, okay? I want to go ahead and base coat this little pod that becomes a poppy right there, and I'm going to do another one over here. And I had a teeny bit of white in that over on this side, a little bit of white over here. All right, so we're going to wait and put the little heads on that later. All right, so let's come up here and put our little buds. And I'm going to touch a teeny bit of moon yellow, but mostly red. This is apple red. We're going to come up here and put pressure, lift. Put a lot of paint there. It even has a ridge. See that? A lot of paint. And I'm going to put another little bit on here. And then right down here, we have one that's turned over here, kind of. Pressure, lift, pressure, lift. I'll put just a little bit of yellow on here. All right. So right in this area here, we're going to put one of the larger flowers there. So I put a little bit of yellow and red. I have the top petal. Pressure, lift. Pressure, lift. Lift. 1, 2. All right, that didn't give us enough stroke here. There we go. All right, so I have a little one here, but I'm going to do one way down in this area here, which is kind of small. It's kind of going off the edge. And another, this is my big one, but I have another little bud over here. I'll put the 2 back petals. And then I'm going to stroke the yellow. All right, same thing over here. Over here, in the lower area here, I have 1, 2. These are the 3 back petals. And then I'm going to have 1 here and 1 here. You'll see that? So when we put the center, it's going to look really good. Then we come over here, this one off the side. 3 strokes for that bud. And then right here, we want the back stroke. We have 1 on the side, and it's okay to have ridges. See the big heavy red, apple red color there? Same thing when we come in here with yellow. We got some moon yellow coming on front here. 1, 2. And way low down here, I'm doing another one. That's going to go off the edge. And then this large one up here, I want one right here. So it's 1, 2, 3rd petal in the back. Another one out here. I add a little bit of moon yellow. And there we go. Okay, so they're bright. When we put the center, it takes down the bright a little bit, but it really sets it off as a poppy. All right, so to do those, I'm going to need the licorice. All right. So I'm going to come in. We're just going to roll the brush in the thick licorice without water. All right, so on these, I might grab the stem a little bit into the flower. So you see that there. But the first one that you're going to see an inside is here. So I'm going to tap the middle with the licorice. And then over here, I put a little bit of the center showing. and a stem. And this one shows the center some too. All right. And then I just did this for the heck of it because like when you push and lift, these poppies with this 3 pieces, like comma strokes coming towards it, really show you that it's a poppy. And sometimes you see that underneath, like right up here. You could lay a couple of those strokes into this poppy, the side view. All right, same thing over here. We're going to come right in here into the split of those 2 petals and tap in the licorice. See, doesn't that give it a nice look when they get all the centers in it? There we go. All right, and then we have right here one. This one's going to be a stem from there. So all I did with those now is I picked up, you can use a moon yellow or even a little citrus, yellow citrus there. You can use the moon yellow and a little bit of citrus green and tap that in there. Put little bits of it as a highlight. This one, you want it in the center. A little bit along there. All right, and little bits here. Now what we're going to do now is come back and do the little tops of these buds. Now you look over here, see they came with a little bit of sap green. All right, so I'm going to put this to the side. And then look, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. We're going to pull these little strokes out from the top here. And if you make it come around like this and put a little white in the middle, then it looks like you can see the whole little bud there. Try not to touch my wet poppies. Kind of like a little flower around the top there. And then put a little center in it. And there we go. All right, we have a little bit back here. A little bit of moon yellow. All right. Now, we're going to do some lettering, but I just want to show you the last thing I did on these is take my 12 flat and I floated some licorice in here. So when you come along in here, we can come around here, a little bit under here, down the sidewalk some. Look, if I was to come along here, the same thing over here. All right, so just come around here and shade when all the red's dry. You're going to come around and makes it really nice to come up underneath those leaves, even with a sap green underneath those leaves some, and then you're going to get really good depth in there. Okay. So how we're going to finish off our pieces, remember, is we're going to come in and do some great little saying at the top of our project. This one is Love Begins at Home. So I'm going to put this to the side and I'm going to let you see up close the pretty shading that's in the love. So we have apple red, and then we're going to make some colors to shade this in 2 different other colors. Then we have begin, add, and then home is kind of a little scripty like love. So I like that we mix the 2 together. So I'm going to put this to the side, and let's get out our practice sheet. Now what I want you to see on here is that we took our pattern, all right, and we copied off the words right here. So we just used a tracing paper and a permanent marker and traced out the words we wanted. And remember, you can expand it or move it or whatever, but there they are in this one size, and you can always move them and separate them like we've done before. So that's right in your kit, your hometown kit. You're going to have those ready for you. So then all we've done is taking the tracing paper, like you're going to do on your project. You're going to lay this out on your project, but remember, you're going to tape it first. Say, if I was going to have it here, let me put this down. I'm going to have this here. I'm going to tape it, and then put the graphite paper underneath, all right, with the shiny side down, and then you're going to trace all of these letters on, and then you're ready to go. So I traced it on here so that we could practice with it, but it's also going to be traced on your pattern, on your project piece. All right, so let's practice these letters first so that you see the different styles here. Okay, so I love doing these letters, and they're fun, and it makes you look like a pro. So I always like to do something that makes me look better than I might be in lettering, but just the fun. I love that Chris does ombre, and then she does solid designs with lots of lining work on it, or just shading and ghosting. I mean, all the different techniques and styles that we're teaching you all here will help you be a better letterer. I don't know if that's even the right word, but putting signs on our pieces, I love. Okay, so now what's happened here is we took the 2 script liner and we just make an inky red. This is apple red. And we practiced here to show you what it was going to look like. And then this was just outlined, just right over the pattern that was traced. Okay. So then we're going to come in here and fill in all that area, which is really easy after you outline. So I have the easy part there. All right. So this is the second step, is the apple red with a little bit of licorice. So you're going to mix it till you get the shade you want. All right. And you can see on the left side, come along the left side here and shaded. So what we've done is we added this little bit of licorice into the apple red. And when you saw me do that is so that we can get more of a burgundy color. So it's a deeper color from the apple red. Okay. So we're bringing that along there. And then we would do it on the inside of this area here. And a little bit down here. All right. So then the next step that's on here is I'm going to wash this out. And we're going to take the apple red and move it over here and pick up some moon yellow and get a lighter color to give it a highlight. So you just mix that until I could put this out here and get that same color, right? So I'm going to come over here because this one's dry and show you that I'm going to come along here and highlight. So that's not yellow enough. Do you see that? Needs a little bit more moon yellow. All right, so then I can just pull that yellow down, cross, a little bit of highlight here, a little bit there, maybe a little line on there. Okay, so just adding those, and then the last step is doing your liner work with the licorice. Okay, so let's roll that. That's the only time I'm using water is when I'm using this 2 script liner. And so you can practice this movement. But see, it's on the left side and the bottom. So I can come along here and across the bottom. Okay, and a little bit here across the bottom. All right, and do that all the way across to get that nice finished look. And on these guys, see how these are lettered out here? So we're just outlining. This is very little here. We're outlining right there, around here, around there. Okay, and then this 2 liner comes right in, and we'll fill this in. Just like we did the letters above. Just come right in there. Okay, a little bit over there. A little bit there. All right. So these are made with the medium gray. So we're going to bring the wicker white over here. Let's get more of that white. Let's pull some licorice to this. Wicker white and licorice. And we want a darker gray. Not licorice, but a darker gray. I can still add a teeny bit of white here. Okay, now roll the brush. Excuse me. I'm going to roll the brush. And this is already outlined for us. So now we're just going to come right in here with the liner, the 2-script liner, and fill in. That's the color right there that we've made. So these are the colors we chose to make these pretty signs, but you look at it and decide if there's a color you'd rather have. Then we came back with this licorice and shaded before we put some of that dry brushed white on there. So we're going on this side. Across the bottom a little bit. All right, and then a little bit in here. Okay. Now let's wash that. Look how fancy that H is. I love that. So we're going to kind of pick up the white, and then let's dry brush some of that off, even wiping it on the paper towel, because then when I come in here, I'm going to go on this side and put a little bit of that highlight there. All right, a little bit on here. All right, and on the right side of this shading here too. Okay, so I'm going to go back now that I've highlighted the white, and let's roll some licorice. All right, and then we're going to come right back in here and outline the edge. There again, we're doing that outside bottom edge as we're coming along here. So you would do that on there as soon as you do all your whites across here, your dry brush in there. See how all the black is along there? So there you go. Now that I've taught you, shared with you how to do all this, let's go back to our piece. And the next step you're going to do is you're going to tape it in here wherever you want it to be. Get it all taped down, ready to go. Trace it on and just have fun painting your new lettering. Well, guys, wasn't it fun painting that ombre in the back and then bringing your painting from the back forward? And what I loved in here, besides putting the siding and all the cute little windows, is all the beautiful greenery that we put on. And just doing that greenery made a difference, didn't it? And then as we added the pretty colors of the flowers and we came forward to the big poppies out front, I love this lesson. Can't wait to see yours. I invite you to come join us on Facebook. We have a great Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group where everybody shares and enjoys each other's art. And please take a picture and share yours by putting hashtag Let's Paint Challenge. And in September, we're going to take a journey. We're going to paint a bike and paint a window and put sunflowers in the window and in the bike. Doesn't that sound fun? So until then, let's paint.